welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna do worst books of 2020. I haven't actually in my entire life read that many books that I did not like, because it might be a little bit because for the most part I stay in one genre. Two of my all-time favorite series and my all-time favorite author, it does action and adventure, and I love them so much. And then I have read a couple dystopian, but I mostly just stay in fantasy because that's what I like and that's what I love, and I love it so much. And so yeah, but just because I love fantasy doesn't mean everything in fantasy I like. So there wasn't that many, and one of the books I'm gonna mention, I technically didn't read in this year. It was last year, but I'm gonna add them because this is my first year doing booktube. So I'm gonna add it with this because, like I said, there isn't that many books I've read that I really dislike anyway. So I'm just going to add it on this list because why not? That's really my reasoning. I can't stand Twilight, which I mentioned multiple times, so you should know that by now. But I read that, I DNF'd that in the first book. No. I've seen the movies, I read the books, or tried to read the books. I can't stand it. And then Hunger Games, I'm not actually a big fan of. I don't hate it or anything, and I do like Katniss and Peeta together. Peeta is a great character. Katniss is a pretty good character as well. A good heroine. I just don't like dystopian very much. I read Divergent too, seen the movies. That one I like more than Hunger Games. I like Divergent, I do, but it's not something I'll ever reread again. So I know the story. I don't ever want to reread it again. But I did not like it, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna just tell off the books that I read this year and one last year that I didn't care for much. I don't own them anymore. Actually, I think my sisters might own them because I was gonna get rid of them, but then I didn't. So there's one more book that I completely forgot about. Hold on. There's this book. I DNF'd this because it got boring. I just DNF'd it pretty early on because it bored me, and there was a time when I was really hyped to read this, but then I kept putting it off. There's other books that I kept caring about more to read, and eventually my hype and my wanting to read this kind of died down. So when I finally decided to pick it up for that trick-or-treat-a-thon I did in October, I couldn't do it. I ended up DNFing it because I was like, oh my gosh, my hype for this is just not there anymore. So it got really hard for me to even want to read this, but then I finally did, tried to at least, and it just, I just wasn't a fan, you know? The writing was, I didn't have a problem with the writing or anything, and the storyline seems interesting from the back of it, but I don't know, I don't think it's the type of book for me. And honestly, I think this is dystopian because they're in a, that might be part of it too, because it is dystopian and I can't get into dystopian, because it does, from what I did read, it kind of seemed like it was the messed up government sort of situation, you know. So I might be wrong, but it seems dystopian to me. It gives off those vibes, in my opinion at least. And I think that's also part of the reason why I couldn't get into it, because I don't do dystopian. I don't. I've tried before, can't get into it. So that's why I pretty much stay in the fantasy range, except for Aaron Hunter's books, because that's like the one exception. You know how they always say the one exception. Like for me, I can't do country music, but when it comes to Lucy Hale, she's the one exception because I'm in love with her. So yeah. So this book, not a fan. I do have a friend who, I don't remember if I don't know if she even told me, but I was saying how I was gonna get rid of it. She said that she wanted it, so I'm saving it for her to give it to her when I see her next. I don't know if she's read it and liked it, or if she just wants to read it. So I don't know, but I'm gonna give it to her. I have another book that I can't even seem to pick up called The Cell by Stephen King. It's not like a disappointing or worst book of this thing because I haven't even read one page of it. Because, like I mentioned before, I love horror movies and thriller movies, but when it comes to books, I can't seem to pick it up. And it's nothing, and I don't know why. When it comes to books, I'm very more specific in my genres. So yeah. That's, I'm also saving for a friend who says she wants to read it. So yeah. What else is there? So the one book that I'm gonna mention from that was last year. I don't have the book, but I have the other two books from the series. It was just the one book I wasn't a fan of. So I don't know if you guys are TV watchers. Like, I love to watch TV. I like to read more. Obviously, reading is my life. But I like to watch TV sometimes too. And I love this show called Once Upon a Time. And when I found out last year that there were Once Upon a Time books, I got obsessed. There's only 3. But I found out because I think it was my sister who bought me this one. I think it was. Yeah, because this was the first one I read. Because I'm in love with Red, and I loved her character on the show, and I also loved Regina's character on the show. This one got a little bit ruined, sadly. But I love both characters, and there's a book of both of them. And because I love Once Upon a Time, I decided to read the third one as well. I was pretty sure I wasn't gonna like the third one as much as the first two because of the characters it was surrounding. The third one was about Henry and Violet's relationship. Henry is one of the main characters. Violet was only on season 5, I want to say, and they were together for a little while. Violet was kind of Henry's first love sort of deal, you know, but then they did the whole time jump where Henry was a doll, and he fell in love with someone else, and because him and Violet had already broken up at this point. On here, it was actually good to watch that, to read that book, because like 1 minute Henry and Violet were together and happy, and then the next minute they weren't, and it never really explained why, but in the book it actually explained. So I don't regret reading it or anything, because it actually showed why they broke up and how they broke up and the adventure they went on during a field trip that was in New York, I want to say. I want to say it was New York. But Henry and Violet was never a couple that I absolutely loved. They were a cute little couple, you know, first love kind of thing. They were cute, but they're not like Belle and Rumple or Regina and Robin or Alice and Robin, different Robin, or Emma and Neil. Those are my top favorite couples from that show, and it's not like they and Henry and Violet were never like one of those couples that I absolutely loved. And it was kind of boring and low-key, and it was mostly about their relationship, and I don't hate it, I'll never read it again, and it was just kind of boring and very low-key, which low-key is fine every so often. I seem to be more okay with low-key when it's on TV though than when it's in books, I guess. That's weird too, but when it's low-key on TV, depending on what it is, I might like it, but when it's low-key in books, I get more bored, and I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, so that's one that kind of disappointed me. I was hoping it would be a little bit better than that. I knew I wasn't going to like it as much as the Red and Regina one, because I love those characters, but I was kind of hoping I would like it a little bit more than I did, so it was kind of a disappointing read. But yeah, but it did help me understand why they broke up a little bit in the show, because it kind of never really mentioned that. It's like 1 minute they were together, next minute they're not, and it never really explains. So yeah, it just stopped showing Violet altogether. So yeah. What else is there? Okay, this is another series. I don't own the series anymore except for one book, because this is the only book I actually liked from the series. I did a whole reading vlog on all the books. There's 4 of them. It wasn't a reading vlog, but no, reviews for each book. And this book I absolutely loved. I actually mentioned years and years ago, back in elementary school, I read this book, not knowing that it was the third of a series. So I finally, this year, bought all 4 of them so I could reread this one and read the other ones all in order this time, because I had no idea this was part of the series when I found it at the library and decided to read it. That was back in elementary school. The first book, I DNF'd. I was so irritated, so frustrated with Apple, because she's one of my least favorite book characters. Not worse than Mary Hightower or Umbridge, because they're the worst. But she still gets on my nerves a lot. In the show too, because I like Ever After High. You guys should watch Ever After High and read these books if you like Ever After High. But the first book is a lot like the first season of Ever After High, and I think that's why I didn't like it, because I didn't much like the first season of Ever After High, except for a few scenes that I did like. But for the most part, I didn't like it. So it's irritated me, and it has and that book, you can read this book without reading that book, because they're part of the same series, but at the same time they're not that connected enough that you have to read the first book to read this book. So yeah, and the second book was better than the first book. Still I was a little annoyed, not annoyed, that's not the right word, bored, I guess is the right word. I don't know, but the second book was better than the first one. I think I rated it 3 stars. I might make it go down to 2. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But if you want to read this book, you have to read the second book, because the second book leads up to what happens in this book. So you have to read the second book if you're going to read this one. That one. So if you want to read this book, you have to read at least the second book. You do not have to read the first or the fourth. But yeah, because in the second book is when the Jabberwocky gets released, and the Jabberwocky creates havoc in this book. So you definitely have to read the second one to read this one. And then I'm gonna put this out. And the fourth book is mostly at the beginning of the first book, they're going to school for the school year, and so summer's just ending. The fourth book is just basically a collection of short stories of what a bunch of the characters did during their summer break. And there's a couple I knew I wasn't gonna like the one that revolved around Apple, because I don't like Apple. But there's a few that I thought I would love because I love the characters, like Lizzie, she's my favorite. Kitty and Maddie are 2 of my other favorites, and I thought I would like them. I was wrong. I think I rated that 2 stars. I rated the first book 1 star, and then I rated the third book, the one I just showed you, 5 stars, because I loved it. And I think part of the reason why I loved it is because it's surrounds the Wonderland characters, and they've always been my favorite. Plus, there were several sweet Lizzie and Daring scenes. So because Daring, it's controversial. So like every fan ships him with someone different. It's like some people ship him with Lizzie, like I do. Some people ship him with Cerise. Some people ship him with Rosabella. And I don't think anyone ships him with Apple, to be honest. But those are the only characters he's ever really had relations with. On the author there obviously ships him with Lizzie, because of the sweet little moments they had here and there, and I lived for that. And I also love the friendship between the Wonderland characters, and I love the characters themselves. And I think that's part of the reason why I did love that book so much, was because I already loved those characters to begin with, so it made it better for me to read it, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. First and fourth book you do not need to read that one. Second book you do, but I highly recommend this book, and the second one is worth it to finally get to that book, because that book was stinking awesome. I loved it. But this isn't about books I love, is it? But yeah, majority of that series was not good, but except for that one book. But yeah, I might change the second book to 2 stars, to be honest, and change the fourth one to a 1 star along with the first book. Haven't decided yet. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, they were just very disappointing. I thought I would like them better than that. So yeah. Is that all for the disappointing reads? I think that was, like I said, there isn't many books that I've read that I just don't like. So yeah, that was all for the disappointing reads of 2020. So yeah, I told you there weren't that much. To Please like and subscribe and comment your disappointing and worst books of 2020, and I will talk to you guys later.